Okay, whenever you're ready.
Did you know that there is an island of plastic out in the ocean? A mass so large that it is considered land and an island because so much trash has slowly developed over time, just floating around in the ocean. It is all clumped up together because we as people have dumped into the ocean so carelessly. I believe measures need to be taken to stop this because it's very detrimental to the environment and it's only taking us on a downhill spiral towards our own demise. Today I'm going to be talking to you about just how harmful ocean dumping can be because it's a very, very common practice today and it's very relevant to all of us because every country in the world practices it and it needs to be regulated or stopped altogether. I'm going to be talking to you today about the effects that ocean dumping has, the sources of ocean dumping, and the solutions we can use to hopefully prevent it altogether. First, I'll be talking about the effects that ocean dumping has. I believe that ocean dumping really is, as I said before, very detrimental, and it only has negative effects on the world, not only in terms of marine life in the ocean, but it comes back on humans as well. In his 2006 review entitled Geotechnical Engineering Issues and Ocean Waste Disposal by Ronald C. Chaney and Kenneth R. Damars, they discussed that in Minamata Bay there was methylmercury involved in a discharge of sewage into the ocean, and this ocean discharge accumulated into fish and shellfish, and this ultimately caused toxic central nervous system diseases in those people who consumed these fish over short periods of time. Now, with that being said, the toxicity is going into the ocean, and then in turn that poisons the fish, and then it leads to toxic disease. But this, overall, this is very bad for us because ultimately we're just poisoning ourselves. Many people rely on fish and other marine specimens for their own personal use. They need it for food on the table and their way of life, especially on the coastlines around the world. In his 2011 book entitled Plastic Ocean by Charles Moore, Mr. Moore talks about his trip to the ocean himself, and him and his colleagues went to the ocean and did their own little work, and they sifted through the ocean on their own and found that whenever they went through, they talked about they plucked plankton and plastic apart from each other and apart from extraneous, mostly biological matters such as feathers, squid eyes, fish eggs, plankton, other plankton, algae, and tar that they used. They were swept into the trawls with their sifting machines. And they found that a total of 27,484 pieces of plastic were found in the ocean. And this was an 80-mile by 3-foot span of mid-ocean that they were searching through. And that number is astounding. And I read further into the book, and they said that the number of plastic and other waste actually overwhelmingly outnumbered the amount of normal marine life and biological material that normally belongs in the ocean. And I chose this picture here because it helps me visualize what that might look like. Granted, this is a much larger scale than the 3-foot wide margin, but ultimately we're turning the ocean into a landfill at this point, and we need to work to stop that because it's going to send us downhill in a hurry. And this is all kind of disheartening and saddening to see, but we can only blame one thing, and that's ourselves. Humans are the ultimate cause for this, and we need to right our wrongs. And there's 3 main sources that we talk about here. Kenneth A. Solomon's 1986 paper entitled Sources of Radioactivity in the Ocean Environment, he lists 3 main sources that humans use to dump the most into the ocean, and they are low-level radioactive waste, or LLW, as I'll refer to later, spent fuel reprocessing plants effluents, and nuclear weapons testing debris. I chose a picture for each one to help you visualize. These are 3 of the main industrial points that we use in our lives every day in big businesses, and as humans we dump a lot and throw things away without even thinking about it because we put it in the ocean because that's our last resort for places to go, but we think that's no big deal. It's out of sight, out of mind. It's not our problem anymore, but we were very wrong to do that. And Kenneth Solomon further states that through 1970, 86,000 containers or 55-gallon drums of LLW, or the low-level radioactive waste, was dumped into the ocean just by the United States alone. Now, this is a very large number, and that was nearly 50 years ago, so one can only imagine how much has been dumped since. And that was just the United States. Many other countries are doing the same, and it needs to be stopped. And there are regulations that have been put in place over time, but we can only do so much more to help prevent. And this is all very disheartening, like I said before, because we've done so much wrong, but we can still do so much more right as well. And that brings me to my final point of the solution to this problem is simply ocean incineration. And with ocean incineration, we can create new policies to regulate the ocean incineration to hopefully manage ocean dumping as a whole and eliminate it altogether. Now, in a U.S. Congress assessment entitled Ocean Incineration and Its Role in Managing Hazardous Waste, they talk about land incineration, and because land incineration is so close to human populations, it poses a big health risk because of the radioactivity that's involved. This radioactivity can easily cause lots of health problems and illness and even death in humans, and it causes toxic problems with marine life, as I said before, as well. And ocean incineration will be a lot better of an alternative because it uses boats like this vessel here. This is from the same assessment the U.S. Congress made. And on the far left, you see the incinerators are those tall stacks on the end, and the crew use their quarters all the way on the other end to avoid contact with the radioactivity. And this way, they can release and burn up all the waste on their own, and then leave the leftover liquids to dissolve in the ocean harmlessly. So therefore, we don't cause problems with waste, because that way we save a lot of lives and sustain much more healthy environments that way. And this is just one prototype of many. Jeffrey Graham's article entitled Japan and the Ocean Dumping of Waste shines light on LC-72, which is the London Convention of 1972, and he discusses how this was an international treaty for environmental safety and worked with regulating ocean dumping, and it worked with Japan in a way that they state the LC-72 was far more reaching over a period where narrow guidelines for Japan moved to more concrete policies and then ultimately led to leadership style initiatives and international cooperation. And this way, Japan kind of grew as a country to work more environmentally and be more environmentally sound. Now, with that being said, it won't always work for everyone, but we can still create new guidelines like this LC-72, which is nearly a half-century old. And we can regulate new guidelines to where if we're going to get rid of waste, we're going to have to get rid of waste only with this incineration method. And this way we can work to hopefully release all our waste through incineration and never dump in the ocean again over time. In conclusion, I believe that ocean incineration and the methods of means to regulate this with policy will have the best effect on the world. And I think that going forward, this is the best time and place to fix our environment, because we've made this world so wrong so many times. We've also done so much to make it better. And going forward, this is the best way to do this, and I think we can overall make the world a very clean place in no time. Thank you.